Buried in ash. They say the mountain mourned them. On Sumbawa in April 1815, farmers claimed the summit glowed red at night, a single eye staring down through smoke veils. The air smelled of sulfur for weeks. Birds vanished from the slopes. Cattle refused to graze. Hunters found whole valleys silent as if even insects had fled. At the foot of the mountain lay the Kingdom of Tambora villages climbing the hillsides, a palace with carved pillars, markets filled with voices speaking a language no outsider understood. Dutch traders described fertile terraces of rice and maize, orchards heavy with fruit, fishermen hauling in nets by torchlight. Then the earth split open. On April 10th, witnesses hundreds of miles away heard the first explosion. Some thought war had come. British officers on Java ordered troops to the coast, believing a fleet had opened fire. But the sound came not from ships, it came from the mountain tearing itself apart. For 3 days, ash blotted out the sun. Villages collapsed under falling pumice. Some survivors described fireballs tumbling down the slopes, entire forests igniting in seconds. The sea turned black with floating timber and corpses. When the main eruption struck, a column of fire 20 miles high pierced the clouds. Some said the ground shook for a full hour. Others spoke of walls of gas and ash rushing outward faster than horses could run. At least 70,000 died on Sumbawa, and nearby islands some burned, some drowned, many starving in the famine that followed when crops failed under falling ash. But the kingdom itself, its people, its tongue, they vanished completely. When Dutch expeditions returned decades later, they found ruins under 6 feet of ash. Walls where houses once stood, bronze bowls stacked neatly in kitchens, skeletons frozen mid-flight. One lay with arms outstretched toward a door buried in debris, as if seconds too late. Linguists gathered stray words remembered by refugees on neighboring islands. The Tamboran language proved unrelated to any other in the archipelago. With the people gone, the words themselves died. A culture burned so thoroughly that even its syllables turned to ash on the wind. The eruption darkened skies across the globe. In China, crops failed under summer snow. In New England, June frosts killed harvests before they sprouted. 1816 became the year without a summer. Some feared the sun itself was dying. Today, Tambora sleeps. Its caldera yawns wide, 2,000 feet deep, jungles creeping back along the rim. Farmers till soil made fertile by the same ash that buried their ancestors. At night, wind moans across the crater walls, and villagers say the mountain sometimes rumbles softly, like distant drums beneath the earth, as if the kingdom stirs restlessly in its sleep. Greece's sunken mystery. Winter, 373 BCE. Helike stood proud among the cities of Achaea, its coinage stamped with Poseidon's trident, its streets lined with temples and colonnades. Merchants crossed its agora with goods from Athens and Corinth. Fishermen hauled catches through its gates each evening as torches lit the city walls. Then came the omens. Shepherds claimed flocks bolted without cause. Wells turned brackish overnight. Dogs howled at nothing under cold stars. Some swore a pale flame hovered above the Gulf of Corinth at dusk, not lightning, not fire from any hearth, but a wavering pillar of light that rose from the sea itself. The priests of Poseidon ordered sacrifices in the great temple. Witnesses later said the ground trembled even as the smoke curled upward, as though the god rejected their offerings. Then, on a moonless night, the earth split open. Survivors in nearby villages described a roar like mountains collapsing. Buildings folded inward as fissures tore through streets. From the gulf came a single wall of water, black under starlight, taller than the city walls. It struck Helike without warning, swallowing temples, markets, the palace, the harbor. By dawn, nothing remained but a flat sheet of water sliding back toward the gulf. For centuries afterward, travelers claimed to see ruins beneath the waves on calm days. Streets glimmering under blue water, columns leaning at angles, the great bronze statue of Poseidon standing on the seabed, trident raised toward the surface as though in defiance. The philosopher Aristotle mentioned Helike's fate. The geographer Pausanias wrote that fishermen still glimpse the sunken city on clear mornings. Roman divers retrieved coins centuries later, proof that Helike had not slipped from memory entirely. Earthquakes continued to haunt the region. In 1861, tremors shook up bronze artifacts in fishermen's nets. In the 20th century, archaeologists finally uncovered streets and pottery beneath layers of silt, evidence that Helike lay not far offshore, as legend claimed, but buried where the tsunami had struck. Yet mystery lingers. Some point to signs before the disaster: fleeing animals, fire over water, wells turning foul as proof the earth warns before it kills. Others whisper that Helike angered its patron god, that Poseidon himself reached from the sea to reclaim the city built in his honor. Even today, fishermen avoid the waters above the ruins. They say strange currents twist there after dark, as if something stirs beneath, restless, waiting. The Atlantis theory. Before Athens, before even Troy, the island of Thera flourished in the bright heart of the Aegean. Akrotiri sprawled across its southern edge, paved streets. 3-story houses with painted walls, storerooms filled with oil jars, and saffron petals drying in baskets. Minoan merchants sailed from its harbor toward Crete, Cyprus, perhaps even Egypt. Then the island began to shake. Sailors told of the sea drawing back unnaturally far, leaving fish flapping on bare sand. Farmers spoke of smoke rising from the mountain at Thera's center. Some fled in boats. Others prayed in doorways as tremors toppled walls and shattered pottery. The eruption came with a violence few events in history have matched. Ash rained for days, burying fields, blackening skies across the eastern Mediterranean. When the caldera collapsed, seawater met magma and a roar heard on distant coasts. Some scientists believe tsunamis from Thera struck Crete itself, battering the Minoan harbors at Knossos and Phaistos, perhaps crippling the empire that ruled the islands for centuries. Yet Akrotiri holds one final mystery. No human remains have ever been found among its ruins. Unlike Pompeii, where bodies lie frozen in final gestures, Akrotiri's streets stand empty. Pots remain stacked in kitchens, murals unscarred by fire, doorways open toward a horizon no one returned to. Some believe evacuation preceded the final blast, ships carrying thousands toward safety. Others argue the fleeing inhabitants met their deaths at sea, erased by waves that left no trace. When excavators uncovered Akrotiri in the 20th century, colors burst from the ash, as though painted yesterday: blue monkeys leaping across walls, crimson lilies curling beside staircases, fishermen carrying gleaming nets under a sun that never rose again. Plato, centuries later, wrote of Atlantis, a mighty realm drowned in a single day for defying the gods. Some scholars wonder whether echoes of Thera's fate carried down generations until myth replaced memory. What is certain is this: beneath volcanic ash lie streets where footsteps stopped 3.5 millennia ago, a city waiting in silence, its colors bright, its voices gone, its fate still unanswered.